Hello everyone, I'm John Fisher of All About the Jersey, and welcome to Let's Redo the 2015-2016 season of the New Jersey Devils in Eastside Hockey Manager. Long title aside, we are just right up to the trade deadline. These are the standings as they currently are. The Devils have played 60 games with 35 wins, 20 losses, and 5 losses beyond extra time. They have 75 points, and they're in a playoff position at the moment. They're just a point behind our hated rivals, and they're a good 5 to 6 points ahead of the Islanders and the Blue Jackets in the division. Just to briefly look at the division, the Devils aren't completely out of the running of catching the Capitals and Rangers. However, the fact that they've played more games than everyone else has sort of put them into a much more vulnerable position than they are. That being said, they should be able to put up a record better than what they did in real life, and they should be in a good spot to still fight for a playoff spot, since the Islanders and the Blue Jackets really haven't done much of anything, and Carolina and the Penguins are just fading into the distance, and the Flyers are, well, the Flyers, and they suck. Let's quickly go over what the team has done so far in February. It hasn't been a very good month. The team is only 5-5 right now. The team dropped their first game against the Rangers, and, lots of penalties, not a lot of power play to take advantage of, and, they just went away, won the game outright. And as you can see on the Devil side, not some good games from quite a few players. Moving on to the Leafs, the Devils lost this one fairly late, I would say, early in the third period, but they didn't, even though they outshot Toronto pretty heavily, they did not come close to scoring, so therefore this one was kind of a downer of a loss. Camilleri had a good game. Severson had a good game. Mateau had a good game, but guys like AAtJ, guys like Boucher, Sislo, Palmieri, they didn't have such strong games. Merrill didn't have such a strong game. Whereas Komarov and Matthias, they just had awesome nights. So the Devils dropped another game. They did, however, beat the top team in the Metropolitan once with an overtime win. I'd love to show you the highlight of this last goal, but for some reason AAtJ has an odd bug sometimes where a goal will be scored, but the highlight doesn't get saved properly. So all I got to see was Damon Severson skate the puck around in overtime, not doing anything in a non-power play situation. So whatever, they won. That's all. That's important, and it was an important win because they did come back from a 3-1 deficit in the first period, so that's always a positive thing. The big star again was Camilleri. Stepniak really shined in this game, and Lucy shined. So the top line and Jelena were real standouts against a Washington team that played fairly well for the most part. Their fourth liners not so strong, but Kuznetsov had a very good game. Johansson had a very good game, and the Devils were able to overcome. So that's a good win. Unfortunately, they went into Rangerstown and lost 4-1, a fairly decisive loss, got outshot 32-21. Penalties, just briefly, not much in the way of penalties to show off. The team just got run. Lundqvist was awesome. Merrill apparently was the first star of the game, so I guess he was the lone standout, but Severson was pretty bad. A lot of guys just didn't show up to really put up a good performance. The two losses against the Rangers caused the board of directors in the game to actually email me, or rather Kevin Lomax, and say, we're not happy with these performances. So the game will let you know if a bad loss to a rival is a bad loss to a rival team, and they're not particularly pleased with that. That being said, the Devils got back to their winning ways against the Oilers, who has surprisingly been a good team in the Western Conference this season. So that's a quality win. I'll take that. Reed Boucher really shined in this game. He had 2 goals. He came close to scoring a third goal. Very good work from the young man. Schneider went back to his amazing ways. Moore also had a very strong game himself. And as for the Oilers, Purcell showed up. McDavid was frightening to watch at times, but for the most part, not a lot of good performances. So good job on the Devils to take care of business. They go against the Flyers. This one was a penalty fest. Look at all the power play goals. There were 6 out of 7 goals, power play goals. In terms of penalties, everybody just had a bit of everything here, from minors to a fight, of course. The big results, Camilleri had 3 assists, which is very nice from him. Henrique had 2 points. Kalinin had the game winner that held up, and, very good work. They go into L.A., or rather the Devils hosted L.A. on Valentine's Day, goes to the shootout. Larson and Boucher went up early. 2 goals were scored in response. Both teams sort of evened each other out, but the Devils won with another shootout win to go 8-4 so far, and that's a big reason why they're in a playoff spot guaranteed as opposed to fighting for one. Again, all the stars are on the Devils' side. Larson had a strong performance with his goal. Boucher also had another good performance, and Lucy also did very well. Schneider was very good, but so was Jonathan Quick. So fair play to both guys. Go against the Flyers, and this one was a much more decisive win. Not only 3 power play goals, mostly for the Flyers actually, but the Devils got some goals from Henry, Kalinin, and Moore and Elias. Yes, Elias showed up to play, and again, you can see down the line, only a handful of guys didn't do so well, but mostly sevens, mostly eights. Always a good thing to see, and a bad team in the East is still a bad team in the East in Philadelphia. So those were the highlights, and then the end of this shortened month just went bad. The Islanders basically ran on the Devils. That was not fun. It wasn't fun to watch. It wasn't fun for performances. Travis Hamonic had an amazing night, as did Kyle Okposo and Jonathan Tavares. Whereas the Devils, some guys did okay, but they just got run over. Simple as, And against the Capitals, the very next night, the Capitals just styled on them. I mean, there are 2 empty netters, so this score is a little nicer looking than it is, but look at the shots on goal. 40-23. That's just awful. Corey Schneider did what he could, but Green had a very, very bad night. Severson had a bad night. A couple of these guys had some pretty bad nights. And some of these 6s and 7s, I would argue, are a little, what's the word I'm looking for here? Illusionary. I mean, these guys just ran over the Devils. Some of them from guys you expect, some of them from guys you didn't expect, so it is what it is. So, we're right up to the trade deadline. The last 3 games of the month will help determine whether or not it's a winning month or, for the first time in this fake season, a losing month. The Devils get to play our hated rivals one more time, which I'm sure it would be important if you want to catch the Rangers in the standings. You would like to see the Devils to beat them. Just as important, you want to keep Columbus away from moving up the standings, so getting that win is almost as important. And beating Tampa Bay would be a nice thing to do, but we'll see what happens. Now, from a trade standpoint, didn't get as many suggestions as I did in the past, or rather, I didn't get to begin with, and then a couple people, I guess, chimed in. So let me quickly go through them all, because unfortunately, none of these trades went through. I'd like to think they were better value trades. The assistant GM I hired in the game told me that they were all bad deals for the Devils, so I'd like to think we were overpaying. But I'm just going to quickly run through all of your suggestions and just tell you what happened beside the fact that they all failed. So, first and foremost, Lowrider711 asked Blackwood, Boucher, and picks for Ryan O'Reilly. Buffalo rejected this deal on the basis of financial reasons. Such a trade would have put them below the cap floor. So maybe trading for Ryan O'Reilly is a possibility. Buffalo did put Matt Molson on waivers. I thought about picking him up, but then I saw his attributes were actually worse than Lee Stempniak's. Considering that Molson is 1 year younger than Stempniak and gets paid a hell of a lot more, I decided to pass on picking up Molson off waivers. Even though he is a right winger, he's a slow right winger. Anyway, so O'Reilly might be available since that Buffalo seems to be selling off. So I may need somebody with an actual salary to help make the money work. Just speaking of, let me just quickly highlight the standings here. So the Sabres, every team from the Bruins below to the Flyers are pretty much sellers at this point. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're 56 to 46 points. Buffalo is in that range, so it is possible to go pick up guys from Toronto, Florida, and Buffalo. In fact, Toronto recently just traded Dion Phaneuf in the game. So these guys are selling. Tyler Ennis is apparently on the block, so these are guys that can go get. And then in the West here, just to highlight the same thing, it's a little tighter. Teams like the Wild and the Avalanche might still have playoff dreams. The Jets, Blackhawks, and Coyotes, however, they're pretty much out of the running. So those are expected to be the sellers at these last 3 in-game days here of the season. Anyway, getting back to your suggested selection. Severson and Josefson and a high pick for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, according to Lead Hot Zeppelin Pepper. Edmonton said no. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is too important to us. We're not moving him at all. So they're not going to do that. Elias Still Rocks wanted me to try Zaka and a second for Toffoli. They roundly rejected that one. Norton Nemesis wanted me to try Brandon Saad, Mike Hoffman, Cam Atkinson, Alexander Steen, each for Zaka, John Quenville, and a pick. All of them were rejected by stating that John Quenville isn't good enough or he is overpaid, meaning that they're not interested in John Quenville at all. Given that some of those teams are playoff-bound teams and we're asking to trade rather important parts of their team, it's going to be suggested that you throw a veteran instead of a pick. And the last suggestion I had here from Chris Calabrese, he had a progressive series of moves that NJ77 also contributed to in terms of trading for Riley Smith on Florida. Trying Wedgwood and Santini, that didn't work. Blackwood and Santini, that didn't work. Blackwood and Zaka, that didn't work. Riley Smith was considered to be too important to the team for Florida to accept that trade, even though the value was heavily in Florida's favor, since our assistant GM regards Zaka as a 5-star value player because he is a prospect and a player of the future. But we don't care about the future. We want to make the playoffs today. And it's important that the Devils make an effort to get offense. The Devils have 157 goals scored, which is not the lowest among the Eastern Conference playoff teams, but it's definitely a far cry from teams like the Rangers and the Red Wings and the Lightning. If we quickly go to team stats here, just go to offensive stats. If we go to shots on goal average, the Devils are near the bottom at 24.82, just ahead of Arizona. They got to get more shots. And worse, if we look at shots on goal against, the Devils are not the best team in this regard. Their defense isn't considered great. So they got to get some They got to get some shots. So, to that extent, I'm going to focus here. This is the top 50 scorers list. Guys like up at the top here are likely not going to be available under any circumstances. Maybe David Krejci might be, since Boston is eating it this season. However, if we look towards the bottom, these are some of the more the guys that you may want to reach for. Brian Little may be a guy to go after. That's a good option. You could try for, not Patrick Kane. Bobby Ryan. I called an audible during these 20 in-game days because other teams have been offering Bobby Ryan for only a third-round pick. So I'm thinking Bobby Ryan is available. The larger AI does not think he's worth much, and his contract is pretty massive. But 28 years old, he plays right wing, he's got a right-handed shot, 22 goals, 43 points, 166 shots on goal. He is a guy that would help the Devils now and fill a position of need. So I'm going to recommend that if you're going to make suggestions for trades, since the trade deadline is coming up and afterwards there aren't going to be any more trades, make one for Bobby Ryan. And don't give me something generic like, trade some prospects and a pick for Ryan. Be specific. Pick a player. I would highly recommend that you name a player on the actual Devils roster. Because if you want to get value, you have to provide value. And even though we think Zaka is great, the other team needs a player now as well. So, to that end, here is our current roster. And here is how they are doing by average rating. So, Schneider is definitely untouchable. Guys like Lusty, Stempniak, Bateau, you may want to consider moving them more likely. If you really want to dump salary, a Green or a Zajac may be a real possibility. I would hold off on trading Green since he is captain. But Zajac, Kalinin, even Severson, who carry some value despite his not very good season. The fact of the matter is that these guys have salaries and they can help out right away. So going back to my earlier point, please suggest a trade for Bobby Ryan. Please suggest a guy who is a winger. In fact, I'm going to show off who are the top wingers in scoring. So obviously you have Ovechkin and Ben and Kessel. I don't know how available Kessel might be since that Pittsburgh's not doing very well this season. However, I would definitely look at a guy like Orion. I would definitely inquire or think of trades rather for guys like Radim Verbata. Teams like Mike Kemler and Colin Palmieri actually barely make this list, so that's a positive. Michael Bedker. Michael Bedker's actually good in this game. He's another guy that I'm going to recommend that if you want to make a trade for somebody, he's a guy that would fit in real life. Not real life, fake life. In real life, he would not be a fit. He's the sort of player, fits a position in need. He could play both wings. Arizona's bad this season. Let's go get him. Oh, Tyler Ennis was actually already traded to Tampa Bay, so can't go after him, actually. He just got dealt. Evander Kane might be, who knows, maybe he's going to be available considering that Buffalo is seemingly selling everybody off. Riley Smith may require a more substantial trade than Zaka and Blackwood. So these are sorts, and if you really want to trade with the hated enemy, Jacob Voracek might be available. I know that when I ran this sim without my involvement, the AI Devils GM did make a trade for Matt Reed and somebody else on Philadelphia. So in the game, Philadelphia might be a trade partner. And given that Philadelphia sucks, they may be willing to do so. So those are the sorts of players I'd like you to think of. Think offensive players, think wingers. Don't just look at, Mike Hoffman or Kyle Okposo, because, they're on good teams and doing well. Look at the guys who aren't on good teams, like the Perrons, like the Canucks I just mentioned, like the Panthers, the Flyers, Arizona. Again, I really think Betker might be a good idea here. James Van Riemsdyk maybe another guy to revisit, even though he plays only on the left side. And again, let me know who you'd like, because I'm going to give you all just about a full week to consider what I'm going to do over the next 3 days. Because again, the trade deadline is here. So the Devils are in a playoff position right now. Their spot is not guaranteed, and we know they need offense. So again, I'm requesting you to make trades. The next video, I'm going to go over the trades over the next 3 days, and then I'm going to sim the rest of March to see how that goes. And then hopefully by April, this schedule will have more than just 4 games. So again, thank you to everybody for your suggestions so far. I'm sorry that none of them have worked so far. The AI just doesn't like them. But we got one last chance to help improve the New Jersey Devils roster and cross our fingers that they can make the playoffs. I'm John Fisher of All About the Jersey. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And thank you for reading the site.